There's been a lot of conversations over the last decade about the gender wage gap, and in newer conversations also about the racial wage gap as well, particularly within the US market. What do you think is being misunderstood about compensation when it comes to those discussions?
This drives me nuts because very well-intentioned people are creating a bad narrative unintentionally. So this is no disrespect to her, but there's a creator in the US called Hannah Takes It to the Streets, or Salary Transparency Street. And so this person, Hannah, who I think worked like 6 months in recruiting or HR, so she got the very, very barest bones understanding of salary, but then she became famous because she would go to all these cities and say, what is it that you do and how much money do you make? And then so she became known as like the salary transparency girl, which I love her mission. But one, you're getting very anecdotal data that's not verified. So like there were several examples when there was actually one company I was consulting with where someone had a similar job to what Hannah asked for. And she was like, you guys are underpaying me because this person makes this much. And it's like, okay, Hannah on the street is not a verified compensation authority. If she asked me, I could say $5 billion. I could say a bag of jelly beans. No one would know the difference. But the most important thing is that she accidentally continues to reinforce misinformation. It's not just her, because if you go to Google and say, what is the ethnicity wage gap, or what's the gender gap, you have the Bureau of Labor Statistics will give you a percentage, but that's not valid because corporations do not have to provide their information to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. So like the numbers that we often see is like 75 cents between men and women, and then like 67 cents between black women and white men. But the way that starts to figure is that if I'm a company and I hire two roles, I'm going to hire an accountant. If I hire the white accountant, it's 100,000. If I hire the black woman, it's 67,000. We don't see that at the micro level. We see variations of it, and it's usually based on years of experience, which is a whole other thing. But what we do see much more tangibly is the gap is due to lack of access to high-paying roles. And so what we'll normally see, especially for companies that are proclaiming to be really, really diverse and really intentional with the diversity, is that they do hire a good number of candidates from all sorts of diverse populations, but that's at the individual contributor to manager level. And they're normally paid all within about anywhere between a 3 to plus 5% ratio to each other, which is generally fine. Once you're at the director, senior director level, you see the whites taking over again. And especially at the highest level roles for like the highest revenue generating roles, especially like head of sales, CFOs, COOs. Generally, the C-suite is almost always white men. So it's that number is where we're seeing is pushing that gap. So on an individual level, companies are actually doing a lot better than I think people think. But what we have to really do is move on to make sure that everyone aside white men have access to the same level of high paying opportunities.
That's interesting. So it's not so much you're being paid less for the same role. The conversation should actually be around that progression, career progression, and equal access to opportunity as opposed to equal pay.
Correct. So by all means, companies should still make sure it's equal pay for equal work. I worked for two companies that did that, where at every sort of consistent checkpoint, we'd be like, hey, let's just take a look. And what's fascinating, this surprises people, in Sweden, women on general make more than men. So for Sweden, for whatever reason, when we were doing wage and gender adjustments, in many cases, it was like a list of men that we had to bring up to the women's average. So by all means, that should still happen, but I want there to be like, it's almost like a red herring to focus on over here versus why is every C-suite making, it's less about this person making $3,000 less than this person, but why is every white person that's clearing $50 million all white?